Okay, I'm starting. There are approximately 472 countries that are scared of the cybersecurity risk that may jeopardize their critical infrastructure, such as transportation, healthcare, financial, and manufacturing ecosystems. You may be wondering there are only 195 countries in the world. Why he's talking about 472? But I'm sure cybersecurity is a huge concern even for the countries in other solar systems. EthAum and its portfolio startup, Intellectra, believe that this space is going through an immense transformation. And that's why we are hosting a thought leadership panel on wireless threat landscape in smart cities and connected mobility with an amazing panel. We have truly fantastic subject matter experts from different parts of the world to share their insights on the topic and then share their feedback during the roast session. This is Pankaj Gupta from EthAum Venture Partners. We are a deep tech revenue scaler and fund based in Singapore with approximately 100 startups in the portfolio. Now, I would request Mihalis, CEO of Intellectra and moderator of the panel, to introduce himself. Mihalis, please.
Hello from myself. My name is Mihalis. I would like to start by thanking all of today's participants. It's both a pleasure and an honor to be joined by some of the industry's top leaders in connected mobility, cybersecurity, and key decision makers within the industry. Of course, a big thank you to Bagash, Madhu, and the rest of EthAum team for co-organizing this event today with me. A few things about myself. I'm a wireless communication engineer. I have more than 10 years of experience in wireless networks and device security. I have worked with multiple wireless technologies in the past with specialization in cellular mobile protocols. Currently, I'm the co-founder and CEO of Intellectra Technologies, and I'm looking forward to a great discussion with all the panelists today.
Thank you, Mihalis. Appreciate the introduction. Kelvin, please go ahead.
Yeah, my name is Kelvin here. I have 27 years in the tech industry from cybersecurity. So I'm with Zedge Security. Previously as well with Palo Alto Networks and even in the automotive industry itself. So have dabbled in. So what we do is we actually help to serve and protect the critical infrastructure across different multiple industries itself. So nice to look forward to actually having the conversation here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Kelvin. And Kelvin is dialing in from Singapore, so it's almost start of the weekend for him. Thank you, Kelvin. Rahul, please go ahead.
Yes, hi, my name is Rahul Agarwal. I'm the practice leader for KPIT in Germany. I'm dialing from Munich in Germany. For KPIT, I take care of the powertrain practice primarily. So all the V2X and chargers domain is under me. But of course, cybersecurity is a critical topic spanning across the entire industry and all the practices. So last 5 years, I've been critically looking into this domain very carefully. So very, very happy to be here and looking forward to having some interactive conversation. As Kelvin said, it's for all of us to learn as well as contribute as much as we can. And of course, Michalis, very interested to see what you also have to offer.
Thank you, Rahul. I'm sure that it'll be a great learning session for everybody involved. Now I know that Mihalis has prepared some really interesting questions, so I would request Mihalis to take those questions out and start getting feedback from the experts. Mihalis, please.
Yeah. So I want to start with Kelvin. Actually, I know that XH give a strong emphasis on zero trust principles, and I would like, as a cybersecurity leader, Kelvin, what are your biggest frustrations that new innovations may potentially solve? Do you think that zero trust principles is a magic bullet, or are there more?
Yeah, so I think there are two parts to it, right? So if you look at zero trust, it has been around for a while. It's been talked about as a marketing term, but truly, if you think about how many companies truly, at scale have implemented it, zero trust itself always never trust, always verify. But the crux of it is to be able to at every interaction, right, authenticate, validate, and fully authorize it at every interaction, right? Real time. And if for all this different telemetry of devices, when we talk about devices, all the different devices, right? There are more devices right now than humans, right? And all these connected devices or things, right, are connected learning and are also insecure. So the question of this telemetry of all these things itself, how do you actually manage it, right, in a real time, in a real zero trust model? And that's something that I think with the advance of with the coming of blockchain, distributed mesh, I think these are things that can help to actually manage it, right, in due time. And we have seen that, right? So this is something that ZH Security is doing, right, with satellite to satellite protection, critical infrastructure protection. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Kelvin. Rahul, cybersecurity is something that concerns you as a business leader in the connected transport industry. Do you see any innovations in these directions that can solve some of these problems?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to innovations, I'll come to that in a bit. But I think from a challenge perspective, as Kelvin was just saying, so see, the way vehicle industry is affected is a tad bit different from the way it was. I mean, other industries erstwhile were affected, like for example, banking. Right? It is more kind of at the end. It is a server-driven industry, and okay, you protect the servers, you protect the centralized ecosystem, and still you can have a sense of security over there. But with vehicles now, like 100 million cars are on the streets, and now suddenly you have to protect each of those 100 million cars because intrusion can happen for the individual cars, and then can affect the individual safety and security of the individual. So from that perspective, the scale kind of really expands massively, and of course, cars are also getting hyper connected these days. So that much bigger a canvas of attack, which can really happen. So that sheer scale itself is a big challenge. Good point about what Kelvin said about the real time. Security or authentication is a big challenge. I mean, you cannot really have each of the devices on the car where talking to each other and authenticating each other for every single interaction. Impossible, right? It's not only resource heavy, but of course it's not real time. And cars, you need real time communication. So from that perspective, we really need to think how the industry really needs to address this challenge. There are a few things which are happening in this direction, but I think the canvas is much bigger to address than what has already happened.
Okay, so actually, yeah, you acknowledge both that there is some problems from when it comes to the endpoints. Actually, there are some security gaps there that new innovations need to fill there and these gaps.
Yes. I mean, see, endpoint, of course, because see, at the end, endpoint security is the crux for sure, right? But then miniaturization of the security ecosystem and bring it kind of miniaturized version into the car itself, assuming that car as an isolated is an isolated world by itself for certain use cases. So from that perspective, there has to be some thought process, is what I believe.
Okay, yeah. Thank you very much. So what are the technologies that you see making the biggest impact on connected transport industry, especially when it comes to cybersecurity or any other technologies? Rahul, can you go with it?
Yeah. So see, honestly, my perspective, from my perspective, it is very important, as I was saying, so miniaturization of the of a global scale security, cybersecurity ecosystem into a car. Right now, of course, so the architecture has to change. There has to be certain measures from endpoint to certain maybe intrusion detection system within the car at a car level, maybe using some edge computing where there is a limited connection to the cloud, because if you need to have AI driven modeling or AI driven or machine learning based improvements in your algorithms, then you need the cloud, you need the connectivity, but you need to figure out how you can still do something. Some things you can do locally within the car, some things you can kind of push out to the cloud for more computing. So that innovation is what I see is happening already. The systems and the architectures are changing to enable some things locally and some things in the cloud. And according to me, this is a big shift for automotive or connected mobility as such. Yeah, one of the big shifts.
Okay. Kelvin, do you agree?
Yeah, so I think overall, if you are relating to the kind of innovation, right, it is a convergence of multiple domains, multiple fields. So if you think about it, what Rahul mentioned, right, you have already the advance of digitization cloud. You have intelligent devices. You have more than 29 protocols across RF, wireless, new VGIGs. Like even you talk about VGIGs, the Formula One car for Japan, they are already putting the VGIGs there. Right, so uninterrupted, right? So if you look at the convergence, or at least the innovation part, it is actually in multiple fields, multiple domains, and that's really what it is, right? Across for especially in automotive or any sector itself, right? So if you look at it, it could be materials, it could be intelligent devices, it could be cloud, now it's coming on AI, and of course to address all these disparate connected things, it will be definitely, we know the guiding principle is it has to be distributed. It has to be some form of blockchain. It has, and I think that's where we are looking at, right? So it is not one particular technology like, oh, okay, it's going to be a Li-Fi, it's going to be a Zigbee, LoRaWAN. It's like, how do you manage all this, right? So currently, with the state of affairs, we have more devices than people. We have CAN bus intrusions. We have intrusions of Jeep Cherokee since 2015, right? We have radio jamming. So if you look even at just automotive threat metrics, the actual initial access, we can get through the Wi-Fi, the over-the-air radio jamming, so that's already something that Tesla is trying to do, and what Rahul is trying to do with the V2X stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
And also, I think in the connected and autonomous vehicles, there are a lot of concerns about privacy issues when it comes to a lot of telematic data and personal data collected by OEMs and manufacturers. And do you think that blockchain can solve this? I mean, or you need to add something more on this to work and to, because there are a lot of discussions about this by the users, let's say. Kelvin, can you?
Yeah, maybe I'll start there. I think first, just look at the 195 UN member states. How many of these countries have Cybersecurity Act, cybersecurity laws? How many have PDPA, Privacy Act, privacy laws, right? So if we're just starting from regulation, a very small fraction, right? We already have this conundrum there. And then you dive deep into two parts of it, which is the technologies itself, right? So it's not really addressed per se. I mean, certain automotive makers have aligned to INISA some of the standards, and then they can work through the privacy part of it. But then if you have another manufacturer or another parts manufacturer, another part, so how do you actually manage the entire supply chain, right? So it's a much larger discussion and topic in that sense. Yeah, I mean, maybe Rahul can share a bit of that. Yeah, as he's
yeah, sure. So I mean, again, especially on this topic, I don't really know how we can really solve this problem, but the acknowledgement of the problem itself is massive. No doubt about it. Especially like in Europe, we have GDPR already, right? And this is a big problem because then there is massive amount of data which is getting collected by the OEMs now and sitting into their clouds. And what really goes out is some of my personal data really going out is a big concern. I really don't know whether we have effective solutions in this space, but I definitely confirm that this is an acknowledged problem on the floor today.
Just on large language models, right? How do you anonymize the data that's being received by the OEMs, right? And I think that's still an evolving topic, right? That's like
yes.
I mean,
yes, absolutely.
Yeah, just on the simple things like that. Yeah, and then I think that's one part of it. Then you have the intelligent devices, which then just simple things like your NFC and Bluetooth, and it already can detect what's the name of my phone, and like that's the other part, right? So
Yes.
I don't think it's probably I think it's a multitude of things that startups and companies and everybody they need to think through this, right? Yeah, because you can't depend on large entities or regulators to solve for it, right? So I think something will evolve out of that from multiple fields and multiple domains, just like nanotechnology. If you think about nanotechnology, it's materials, physics, chemistry, science, everything, right? So I'm expecting that same level of evolution for what we're discussing here for automotive, for smart cities to evolve. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, privacy is a big concern, especially in the automotive sector, I guess. And so now I want to go to a bit different question right now. I want to start with Rahul. And what do you think about startups' role in disrupting the industry and bringing innovation? Do you think that they are used effectively by big corporations? What do you think?
See, startups are, I mean, generally, not just for cybersecurity, startups are absolutely essential for any industry. I mean, because that's where the real innovation gets driven. I'm a firm believer of that, right? And the big corporations they're like giants, mammoths. By the time they move and make even an inch of progress, probably a startup would have moved a mile. So from that perspective, startups are absolutely essential for any ecosystem, any domain, any technology. The fresh perspective that startups really bring. Where I see a challenge typically that startups really face, especially in more regulated industries, is probably the compliance. If it's a compliance-driven industry, then the compliances startups think differently, and from the scale perspective, they are more focused on. I mean, they're inch wide, mile deep focused, of course. So that's the right way. So I appreciate that. But when it comes to, because of that, the compliances is usually a challenge, is what I have seen. It requires a lot of money and a lot of bigger machinery as well. So, and that sometimes really pushes the big OEMs to not use startups so effectively. So they will use startups only to learn, but finally the internalization of technology happens very often.
Yeah. Kelvin?
Yeah, so I think I mean startups have to comply to the internal business needs, right? And some of the use cases. But a lot, I mean, for startups to actually, map and comply to say all the different regulations and the GDPR and all the NIS and the whole gamut of, whether is it for automotive to oil and gas, right? It's quite a big endeavor itself. And the nature of startups is really impactful resolution of certain use cases. They think deep about it. So adversaries would not care about compliance, right? So even if you have the compliance outtake, as an adversary, we would, I mean, as in adversaries to get in, right? They would look for the initial access. They look for the wireless connection that is not secure, right? Or they'll jam the signals, right? So they don't look like, oh, okay, there's a compliance and it. So I think there are two parts to it, right? Yeah. So I mean, yes, there's definitely something that I mean, I think it's a balance. We need to really look at the compliance of it. They need to understand it and address some of it, but they should not forget the toughest problems that they're trying to solve, right? It's for, right? And it was interesting because I think in this part, if you recall, Starlink and Elon Musk, the famous Elon Musk with Starlink, right? They had vertical integration, they had the technologies, right? And they solved for it, right? By using, like in the initial years, we talk about satellites and geosatellites, so many big firms, 900 over satellites to ship out, right? But Starlink managed to do it with 6,000 over, right? And that was really through the domain that they uncovered, right, through all the launching of the rockets and everything, right? So I learned from that. I take a lift out that's like, okay. And you can see, right, how they are evolving from that. Yeah. So yeah, a space to watch. That's all. Thanks.
One thing that we have observed in our with our startup portfolio is that when startups are serving to the customers that are extremely large in nature and have extremely bureaucratic, lengthy, complex approval process, startups just don't have patience to go through that complete process. And obviously, the big enterprises have to make sure that all the checks are done. But by the time enterprises come back with the decision, startups are probably running out of the funds, or startups are running out of patience or energy, and they just give up, right? And in some instances, we have seen that enterprises first try to build the solutions internally because their research and development team and tech team may take offense in seeing that, hey, our organization is working with other startup solution provider, right? So they enterprises only come to the startups when they know that, hey, we just cannot build this internally, right? There is somebody who can do this better, more efficiently, and at a lesser cost. So, so we have seen all these things playing out with our startups and their conversations with the enterprises.
Yes, I mean, very good point, Pankaj, because I think see, especially on your second point, I think it's a very important point, not just faced by the startups. Any external company has a similar challenge coming in because the politics, internal politics of a large organization is always there. There is a sense of pride which the internal research and development departments usually will have. And if you're kind of walking on their toes through an external company, then it's not going to be taken easily. So that challenge is an absolutely important challenge, but it's not just faced by the startups, honestly. It's faced by every single external company coming in. Right? So,
yeah, I guess it's generally difficult to get in industries like the automotive. It's not only for us startups. For us, of course, it's a bit more difficult because of the lack of resources. And as Pankaj said, sometimes it gets frustrating, and because we want also to motivate our team sometimes, they want to see the results that we promise them as founders, especially. So it's an extra challenge for us. And and as Kelvin said, the hackers and the malicious actors, they don't have these constraints when it comes. They're very flexible. They don't respect regulations. They don't respect, they transmit in a license spectrum. They do different things. So I in my opinion, I think maybe larger organizations, especially in the automotive industry, they should have a more flexible onboarding process when they onboard some startups, and they to give more. Yeah, please, Kate.
Yeah, I think it's also more about internally, your sponsor. Is your sponsor full-time or part-time? Right? It's definitely refreshing for a sponsor who is taking on dual triple portfolio, right? But if you have a dedicated sponsor and the dedicated sponsor is able to breach and connect real use case internally, then you can actually have multiple different use cases, and you can then start to test your hypothesis, right? Based on your core offerings, right? Because there are 3-4 steps in between where you have corporate processes and systems that you could go through, right? Just to get things going, right? But if you have tested with the use cases, right, internally, and it's really valid there, then I think it's something that can help, in terms of streamlining, getting a quick win, right? A quick win in terms of like, okay, for what is being offered and tested, okay, there is like just on the initial access, the Wi-Fi, radio jamming, signals, over-the-air updates. Okay, you've got something there that can help, right? So I think if that addresses it, then I think that's something that you can start to move on. Because if you think about the number of automotive providers or makers in the world, right, you probably got to comply to all 3 global standards, and from the ITU to the IEEE to and then you have the GDPR, and then you got all the different regulatory standards. But if you think from a use case perspective of that and then you can extend it out, right? Regardless of the OEM in play. Yeah. Yeah. So it's really more about a what I call a value impactful product, a VIP, versus a MVP, a minimal variable product.
That's
a VIP, a VIP, yeah, it's needed. Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, more or less you answered my next question, and it's about the adoption of wireless technologies in these critical industries and within these critical systems like the connected vehicles and the autonomous vehicles, and which of course introduces some security implications, as you already acknowledged, and some of them they are more obvious than others, and we've recently, in the past few years, we saw some attacks on the key fobs of the cars using some very cheap equipment like the
Flipper Zero.
yeah, the Flipper Zero, for example, and stuff like that, or some Wi-Fi attacks using. But others, like there is a lot of misconceptions about other wireless protocols, like the mobile cellular protocols, and many think they are, that these are quite secure, and there is not a lot of talking about this protocol. Many of us think that they are secure by default. And what's your thought about that? Do you share this opinion, Rahul?
No, I don't think they're secure by default, for sure not. But maybe I'm really not well versed with the wireless protocols outside the car. Okay, within the car, like for example, key fobs by themselves are not super secure, which we know. We have some examples in the past, but I really don't think they're by design the most secure. And I think the challenges also come purely by the computation power which is required to make them secure. Right? And that is not an easy problem to solve, is what in my opinion, it would be.
Yeah, definitely. Kelvin?
I think two parts to or at least, you need to look at secure by design principles, and then ecosystem, or at least the supply chain itself, right? Yeah, just to manage that. And that is actually alignment to some sort of a, automotive essentials, like basic security principles, right? That is mandated by the OEM to all its suppliers, right? It is a very major endeavor, because if you think about just RF, just wireless, and the new Y gigs, the high speed ones, right? A lot of it, like even Li-Fi, a lot of standards are still being developed. You have close to 28 of these different protocols in use, differing standards. How, at what level? So I think you need to look at your own, the OEM's context of what they require. Look at it from the attack surface, the whole attack framework, and then just map it to, okay, you need to do all these some essentials, and have it to the different suppliers and ecosystem providers, right? Yeah, I think that's crucial, yeah. Try not to overbake it, because by the time you start to put the paper, and that's the part where I talk about integrating the startup into the automotive, in terms of systems and processes, and yeah. And it's going to be worthwhile for the use case that you mentioned. Yeah.
Yeah, in many times I notice that some industries, they adopt technologies just because they are hot, sometimes without truly knowledge of their underlying issues or their particularities sometimes. And I see, we know very well that we are going towards autonomous vehicles, and more and more, and fully autonomous vehicles. And these will deeply rely on these wireless networks. I mean, you have V2V communications, you have V2I, V2P. And I think it's essential for the industry players to acknowledge that they need to give more emphasis on the security of these protocols before proceeding to adopt these technologies. Because we are talking about the safety of the passengers, the safety of the road users, and the whole infrastructure. And this is my opinion in this. And I have actually a final question, which is also a bit different. It's not that technical, and it's also related to the other questions. And do you have any recommendations to the startup ecosystem to make the innovation and adoption cycle more efficient? I think we already discussed this before, but if you can add some extra points on this perspective. Kelvin, please.
Yeah, so I think overall you definitely have a lot of deep domain expertise within your team. The question is maybe, this is really looking at the other areas, right? Beyond automotive, beyond cyber, right? Just maybe on, in the other, in material, not even talking, if you're talking about wireless itself, how about materials, right? We look at materials relating to, say, advanced antenna technologies, right? Because we have been very focused, all of us, as in the ecosystem, has been deep diving into the different regulation, the protocols, the standards, the spectrum. We know where it stands, but maybe what is to be, from the research point of view, we can explore in other areas, the materials, right? So this is where I mean by multi-field, multi-domain. It may not be in your field itself. You could be just talking to somebody who's in material science, and then suddenly stumble upon, wow, maybe this material can be used for the advanced antenna technologies, right? Or even talking to people in the chemicals, talking to people in just in different sectors altogether, right? And then discovering that, because even in the manufacturing side, people are doing intelligent devices. There's different domains to learn from, right? Yeah. So I guess keep an open mind to just get into the different sectors and learn from each, right? Because sometimes you're so deep within the automotive, there's something you can use from the other sectors altogether. Yeah.
So
For example, satellite. Just talk about satellite. Maybe get to the satellite and understand, right? Medium geo satellites, like in that space, or even the pharmaceutical, right? Maybe nanotechnology can help you in cyber. How? I mean, that's an example there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because nanotechnology,
very interesting point, actually. Yeah.
The reason why I brought it up was because if you're looking for the breakthrough, nanotechnology is a breakthrough that we can all agree. And it comes from the principles of chemistry, physics, material science, different domains, different people. So it wasn't just like computer science, cybersecurity. No, there was like different types of people. Yeah. And that's probably where you need to choose and
you need to be open, actually, and also to be Rahul, what's your thought on the ecosystem? What can make the adoption cycle more efficient, let's say? Is it problem of the industry? Is it problem of the VCs? Is it problem of the startups? What do you think?
Before I add some points, I think the point that Kelvin made, I think it's a very valuable point. It is probably extremely challenging, I can imagine, because on one side, with a limited set of resources, we need to, as startups, every startup needs to also demonstrate the depth of expertise. So hence, the focus has to be more and more laser sharp rather than broad-based focused. And then within that broad-based focus, if you want to look at adjacencies or any other industries from where you can draw parallels or from where you can draw inspiration or even broaden your horizon of thinking. So that striking a balance between the two, because what Kelvin is mentioning, I can completely relate to, and it's an extremely important point that sometimes we get into the hole so deep that we really don't see anything outside. So that but it's a very important balance that you have to strike, right? Beyond that, I think as I was saying in my previous stint, that very important is to have the compliance view right from day one, right? I mean, so build for compliance, design for compliance, scale for compliance. That's very important. I mean, one may or may not have the compliance on day one, but the thought process has to be always there. These things have to be in sight, because if it's too late, then it's very difficult to catch up, and a lot of things would have gone or would have been implemented by that time. So please think about that. Very important. And secondly, I would like to know what Intellectra does in this space, but collaborations and partnerships. Right? It cannot be more emphasized how important collaborations and partnerships are, because that's what really our being part of some consortiums is very important, where you kind of ensure that you are doing two things. One, you're able to provide a more holistic picture, offering solution to the OEMs when it comes to through partners, through ecosystem. You have your own ecosystem, which is very important that we have to build. One needs to build, and consortium memberships or consortium being part of consortiums ensures that we are keeping a check on ourselves, that we are going in the right direction, or even influence the direction of the industry. So very, very important aspects, according to me, which really ensures acceptance by the OEMs much more easily, relatively easily. I'll not say much more easily, but relatively easily.
Okay.
I completely agree with Rahul. I know you did not ask me, Mihalis, but let me still give you my opinion. Most of the times founders are extremely obsessed about the technology, about the product that they have built. And when they go and present to the enterprises, they only talk about technology, that hey, this is the cool technology that I have built. They cannot stop talking about it. But enterprises do not care about technology. They care about the value prop, the quantified value prop that you can deliver within the given time frame, while not messing up all the compliances and security aspects of the business and so on and so forth. Right? And if you are dealing with the big enterprises, pricing is not a concern. They want to make sure that you can deliver on your promises, you can deliver on those quantified value proposition that you're showing, right? The other thing that I have been increasingly seeing is that startups are, instead of going to the big enterprises, Fortune 5,000 companies, they start with small to mid enterprises. They prove their product there. They, scale their product with those small to mid enterprises. And then they sort of creep into the bigger enterprises later on as the product matures, as they have more credibility, as they have more validation, success stories to share, and so on and so forth. And that could be a more efficient way of scaling than going to the Fortune 1000 companies, Fortune 500 companies right away and not getting any results for the next 12 to 18 months. So yeah, my 2 cents on that.
Okay. Actually, for us startups, is sometimes it's difficult. We have also a lot of distractions. Sometimes we have a lot of interest for multiple sectors, industries that they don't end up well. So sometimes we have also difficulties on focusing, to be honest. This is what I've noticed with our startup. And we have a lot of, we need to filter out a lot of things that come that are distractions. And I think from the startup perspective, we need to be a bit more focused on providing this unique selling point to our end users and to the manufacturers. But also, when it comes to the cybersecurity startups, I think we have some unique particularities, because some cybersecurity is difficult to quantify the benefit. Because most of the times, if an organization doesn't suffer from a cyber attack, or it doesn't understand. It's like you're trying to sell insurances. This is how sometimes I'm trying to explain how cybersecurity startups struggling, let's say. And cybersecurity usually is proactive measures. It's not something you can quantify very easily. And yeah, this is from a startup perspective, let's say. I think we finished with the questions. And thank you all for providing these amazing insights and answering my questions. And it's very helpful for us as a startup to learn from industry leaders like you. And I think now I will proceed with a presentation to present you Intellectra's vision on how when vision to redefine IoT security landscape to protect and secure our wireless world. Please allow me to share my screen.
While Mihalis is trying to share his screen, my request to Kelvin and Rahul is that please be absolutely honest and brutal with your feedback. You don't have to hesitate because we as startup founders want to hear as much, truth as possible. So yeah, please be completely open with your feedback. Go ahead, Mihalis, please.
Yeah. So we already discussed this. Nowadays, there is a lot of discussion about critical infrastructure and the importance of ensuring its resilience. Actually, just yesterday, the EU announced the adoption of the Cyber Resilience Act. However, what is also equally essential is to recognize the interconnectivity of the systems and the industries that comprise this infrastructure. We're talking about the energy grids that are powering our cities to the transportation networks that keep us moving. Every aspect of our lives heavily relies on wireless networks and connectivity. However, this reliance exposes us to significant cybersecurity risks, some of which are often overlooked. What is important is to understand that safeguarding these critical systems is not just about protecting assets, but it's about ensuring the safety and security of our society as a whole. And in today's landscape, the introduction of IoT securities across various sectors and industries is causing the attack surface to expand rapidly. By 2025, the world will see 13 billion wireless IoT devices go online, each one a potential entry point for cyber threats. From connected and autonomous vehicles to industrial gateways, malicious actors now have numerous options. Unfortunately, traditional security solutions are lagging behind, failing to address the most dangerous wireless threats, exposing our critical systems and infrastructures to a multitude of attacks. But what are the specific wireless threats I'm referring to? Well, these include service disruptions, like from jamming or denial of service attacks. We discussed this before, and data interceptions through relay and man-in-the-middle attacks, code injections and malware through exploits, and privacy and identity leaks that can be used to impersonate or spoof different devices or whole systems. And these are exactly the threats that Final Mile, our solution, was built to address. Final Mile is not just another cybersecurity solution. It's a modular framework designed to autonomously defend IoT devices against the most dangerous wireless threats. At its heart is our embedded algorithms that can detect and neutralize attacks instantly, covering multiple wireless technologies and protocols in real time. With Final Mile, we don't just react to threats, we stop them before they escalate and cause any harm. So let's take the example of connected and autonomous vehicles, a critical component of the transportation sector that is particularly vulnerable to wireless threats. In this case, Final Mile can seamlessly integrate to the telematic control unit or any other communication gateway of a car. It operates as a set of microservices, processing signals from multiple wireless connectivity modules and devices, and then feeding them into our code detection engine. This engine identifies and prevents advanced wireless threats in real time, ensuring that safety of cars and protecting passengers and infrastructures that relies on. So our solution comes in 3 variants to meet the diverse needs of multiple industries. We focus on our embedded solutions, ensuring compatibility and scalability, and we are targeting primarily the connected transport sector. However, we can also provide and develop custom hardware sensors for multiple industries, mostly for geofencing purposes. Final Mile is designed for flexibility and security across a wide range of hardware platforms, ensuring seamless deployment. Its embedded protection safeguards wireless communications at the device level, and it deploys multi-layer defense mechanisms to detect, prevent, and respond to wireless threats. It is also important to mention that the solution is built on zero trust principles, ensuring that no device, network component, or even the underlying communication protocol is inherently trusted. We aim to support most wireless protocols, including 5G, V2X, Wi-Fi, and GNSS. And additionally, we give a strong emphasis on privacy and confidentiality. When it comes to the present-day features, these include protection against cellular man-in-the-middle attacks, data interception, over-the-air identity leaks, and malicious code injections. With Final Mile, we can also detect silent network attacks like middle boxes and SS7 redirections, and we can identify location tracking threats. Moreover, the system integrates seamlessly across multiple platforms, including ARM, x86, MIPS, and it supports the major baseband manufacturers, providing autonomous real-time detection. Last but not least, we are working on privacy-preserving analytics to ensure comprehensive security and privacy. Our features roadmap includes expanding integrations with more baseband manufacturers and platforms, improving precision in wireless threat detection, optimizing Final Mile for dynamic environments, for example, in the cars, integrating GNSS spoofing detection and recovery, and advancing our machine learning capabilities towards federated learning. And here we have our demo setup where we simulate normal operations and an attack in a controlled environment, since we are not allowed to transmit over the air due to regulations. As you can see in this demo, we start by connecting a device on a wireless network emulator. In this case, it's a 4G base station. And then we launch an attack using a fake cell. Final Mile can detect the threat, as you can see, when certain criteria are met. So with regards to the competition, at Intellectra, we are leading the IT security market when it comes to securing the most vulnerable last mile of wireless connectivity. We cover the most demanding cellular threats, which nobody dares to touch. Our solutions are designed to be agile, adaptable, and privacy preserving. And our flexible customer-centric contracts gives us a competitive edge. Our business strategy unfolds into 2 major phases. In phase 1, we are going to sell projects to smart cities and critical infrastructures. And in phase 2, we are going to leverage our projected patent to sell licenses to OEMs and Tier 1 and Tier 2 suppliers. When it comes to our go-to-market strategy, our plan involves beginning with some small-scale smart city projects, which will allow us to run our pilot projects and build awareness and trust for our solutions. And afterwards, we are planning to move to the connected transport market, targeting automotive OEMs, suppliers, as well as industrial IT manufacturers. So our team brings over 30 years of combined experience in wireless network security. We are backed by a robust network of partners that help us improve our business development efforts. Currently, we participate in 2 accelerator programs. We are part of EthAum Mobility Accelerator. At the same time, we are with EthAum in the revenue scaler. And this is from us. I hope you enjoy the presentation. Thank you very much once more for your invaluable insights. Looking for your questions.
Okay, Rahul and Kelvin, please feel free to unmute yourself.
So maybe I'll start, Kelvin, if that's fine with you. I mean, I just have a couple of questions to begin with. So Michalis, I was a little confused in your presentation. What I really did not clearly understand, only looking at the presentation, was what's your real market focus? Because it looked like too broad-based a focus from a market perspective. So I don't know how many customers you already have in a market or across all the markets that you showed through your phases. And second, your articulation of your solution itself. So maybe if you can take me through the journey of how your solution really looks like. I mean, does it have multiple parts? Does it have an embedded part and a hardware part, an embedded part, a code part, as well as a server-side part? Or how is your solution really looking like? So it was not really clearly coming out for me.
Yes, thank you, Rahul. Actually, yeah, the architecture of our solution is not very clear, to be honest. It's a bit complex. We're trying to allow the endpoints, the wireless connectivity modules, let's say, to make autonomous security decisions. So we're trying to decouple them from external security decisions, like from external servers. We, of course, have a centralized platform which is used mostly to optimize our algorithms, but the decisions happen at the actual endpoint itself. So our solution is actually an embedded software solution. And we have a centralized platform.
Just sorry, hold on to that. So here, I mean, if you're saying that, okay, you're trying to, I mean, if I understand you right, what you're saying is that you're trying to improve the endpoint. One of your solutions, part of your solutions is trying to improve the endpoint. How are you trying to ensure that what is your offering for endpoint capability improvement to either detect the threats better or to encrypt your messages or whatever? I mean, what's your offering for endpoint improvement?
Then our offering is actually a software solution which runs algorithms. So how the algorithms work on the actual endpoint, yeah.
On the endpoint. And so you provide a code stack, which somebody can integrate alongside their rest of the application.
Yeah, actually, it's a cross-platform. It's cross-platform microservices. It's a set of microservices. Actually, there are 3 of them. Okay, and each interact with each other. The core of these services is our detection algorithm, which collects information, signal information from multiple protocols. So, for example,
within the
endpoint, and it's very lightweight and it's very efficient. We tried it with very resource-constrained devices, like some very low-performance MIPS processors. So we try to optimize it as much as possible, so it can be embedded even to some very resource-constrained, demanding devices, let's say. This is the core of our solution. We also have our privacy analytics platform, which these endpoints actually periodically send some information to this platform, which exists somewhere in the cloud, let's say, or somewhere in a private server. And this information, this extra information, is analyzed by our analytics platform in order to optimize the weights and the thresholds for detecting a threat. So we optimize offline, let's say, the algorithms that run on the actual wireless endpoint. Either this is a car, either this is an IoT gateway, a 5G enabled EV charger. It can be embedded directly there.
Yeah, I guess yeah, so I have the similar sentiments, right? Because I was just trying to understand, like, okay, so essentially what you're offering is really a wireless threat detection, which is embedded at the edge, and the edge is across all the different sectors, which I think on the 6-7 slide there was like critical sectors, automotive, all the different things, and you're referring to an embedded sensor, which is lightweight at the edge, and that covers all the entire wireless spectrum, RF, and all the different from Zigbee, Z-Wave, everything. Is that the case? That was what I was trying to understand.
Actually, not exactly.
Because I saw 4G, I saw 5G, and like in
Mm-hmm.
my head it's like, right now if I want to get into the system, I can actually downgrade it, spoof another base station and downgrade to 2G, send SMS and I still can get through, right? And I think you know what I mean from that. That was one use case for that, right? And I was just like, okay, then how about, do you cover, the rest of the NB-IoT, 6G research, or WiGig or satellite IoT or Z-Wave? Like, do you cover all 28 across the whole stack, or is just some parts of it, which I think is just some parts, right? I don't know. I'm just trying to understand here.
Yeah. Thank you for your question, Kelvin. Actually, is not a broad spectrum because it's a software solution. We cannot. The hardware is given, is given to us. I mean, it's not that we put our own broad spectrum hardware that can sense all the spectrum from several megahertz up to millimeter wave signals, let's say. What we actually do, we utilize the existing connectivity modules of a device. For example, if a device has a cellular modem, a baseband modem, that provides cellular connectivity, we actually get information from the actual modem. So if it's connected, if this modem is connected to 5G, we analyze 5G information. If for some reason it's downgraded to 4G or is redirected to 2G, we can see this. And we can see if this redirection is normal, if this happened because the user moved from another area without 5G connectivity to an area with 4G connectivity. And this is a normal scenario. But if someone spoofed a base station, we can identify this. The same applies for Wi-Fi connectivity modules or for GNSS modules from different manufacturers. We collect the data from them. We can identify, for example, in the GNSS, we've recently have a solution for detecting spoofing attacks and jamming attacks for GNSS, for example. We collect the information we get from the different satellites, and we can identify if this satellite is spoofed, if the signal is malicious, and then we recalculate the correct position if this is the case. So we have also anti-spoofing techniques in this case, and we give to the actual end user the correct position. And this is more or less how it works. It's not, of course, in some scenarios, maybe there are some devices that we need to do extra integration. Okay, because our analysis is directly on the protocols. Either these are 3GPP protocols or IEEE protocols or any other protocols. The integration usually is minimal, even for some devices that we never integrated before.
So essentially, it's deep packet analysis on RF, GNSS, 3GPP, and the whole full radio stack, and you do actually threat detection on that for anomalies relating to it, so that's really the crux of it for the edge telemetry devices, right? That's okay. Got it.
Yeah, we actually monitor all the interaction between the endpoint and the actual network. From control information to broadcast information to to any information that is exchanged between these two sides of the network, let's say, and we can find the patterns and we can identify the patterns and also adapt our algorithms based on some other sensor data that we get in order to be 100% accurate, because detecting this kind of attacks is very challenging for someone that he doesn't know what he's doing. And if someone tries to make a detection algorithm like this without knowing exactly how these attacks work, most probably it will lead to a solution that is full of false positives. So at the end of the day, you affect the actual service, which is the actual essence of wireless communication, especially for cellular. So yeah, this is the whole idea, and this is how it works.
And actually, your first segment that you have entered into is automotive. Is that correct? Or
No,
or was it? Yeah, I was just trying to understand, like, was your first pilot, a proof of value in the automotive side, in the critical sector side, or which area was it actually? Yeah.
Yeah, good question. Actually, we really want to go to the automotive. This is our ultimate target eventually. So, but we acknowledge at the same time that it's very difficult for what we discussed just before, the regular landscape or these limitations, lack of trust sometimes for a startup that comes from nowhere. So our strategy will start with smart city projects, with some pilot smart city projects. We want to run some pilot projects here in some critical infrastructures in Cyprus, where we're based. And so we can have, build our brand, build the trust for our technology, and then move to the automotive.
Why would you want to move to automotive? Why not smart cities itself? Is it not big enough a market?
Sorry?
Why do you want to move to automotive, and why not stick to smart cities? Is it not big enough a market? You see, it's not interesting enough. And if you're building and entering the smart cities market, I don't know which use cases of smart cities. Maybe I'd love to know that. But whatever you're doing in smart cities, but why do you not continue and build on that market? And why target automotive itself?
Good question. Actually, the smart cities, in some aspects, it also integrates the connected transport systems inside it. So our research shows that the automotive uses more this kind of technologies than any other technologies, let's say. And also in the case of smart cities, there are also some other solutions. Smart cities usually, especially industry, especially critical infrastructure, relies on other technologies like Wi-Fi or other IoT technologies. Because our unique value proposition is on cellular or mobile communications, which there are not many solutions out there. To be honest, I'm not aware of any solution similar to ours, which covers also cellular connectivity. We think that the automotive relies a lot of cellular connectivity. That's why we want to move there, because it's our unique selling point there. This is the main reason that we want eventually to go to automotive, because we see bigger potential for growth there.
So, Michalis, so in terms of the technology for just on cellular itself, am I right to say that probably for you, I mean, you've done your research, is maybe there's a handful of people, or maybe you're the only one, right, in the world. Am I right to say that, or it's just a handful of providers in this space? Right. So
yep.
Yeah, so in a way, you could be providing some form of sensors that can be placed, beyond the automotive systems, into other areas where you can truly detect wireless air gap threats, in short, yeah, so-called air gap threats. In that sense, right? And that is an offering, right? I mean, just trying to understand here. That's why you're talking about the smart cities. And because if you're talking about smart cities and related infrastructure, then how do you manage private keys and certificate management and identities of devices? Yeah, that's the other part, which you mentioned is more of the anomaly and the detection, based on the GNSS and all the different stuff.
Okay. Look, to be honest, look, due to the nature of our technology, we have a lot of applications. I mean, we also have a lot of interest from the defense sector, to be honest with you. Some industries, they also want to develop custom hardware sensors for them that will cover the broad sector, as you said, and this is mostly for geofencing.
Yep.
We saw this kind of attacks happening a lot in the two wars that are ongoing.
Yep.
To geolocate troops, to send their, the artillery to make some damage.
Yep.
There are different applications. To be honest, we don't want to go to the defense for some reasons. We want to focus on safety critical systems that these kind of attacks can affect the lives and they can cost lives. For example, if you attack a vehicle, this can be very dangerous. I mean, especially if someone managed to infiltrate. I mean, I think 2-3 days ago, there was a CVE discovered, I'm not sure if you are aware of it, discovered about the Qualcomm chipsets that was actively exploited by spyware companies. And this was involving an over-the-air attack. Someone was launching this kind of attacks and it was taking over the baseband and then it was moving to the application processor of the victims. And these processors, they are used not only on the smartphones, they are used on connected vehicles, they are used in industrial IoT systems, they are used everywhere. It's the same exact processor, baseband processor. So yeah, this is how we think about it. We know there are also other opportunities. But for now, this is actually our focus.
Okay. Thanks for sharing that. Because really the market segment I was trying to understand is really the largest spread of so-called IoT, cellular use, in short, right? Which is really then what you just shared on in the automotive sector, especially where you want to address. Okay. But if you think about automotive, we are getting into EV, we're getting to EV charging stations, then we're getting into the ecosystem. So what you're saying is that regardless of whether is it a charging station or a vehicle, or even you are able to secure that from a cellular point of view, in short. Yeah.
We are thinking a lot about 5G enabled and 4G enabled EV chargers that they are placed in remote location where there is no cable access, for example, and they use 4G or 5G connectivity. And I think the smart grids and the EV chargers and all this is also very important part of the critical infrastructure. And if you have a couple of infected EV chargers, they can infect using the protocol that communicates with the actual cars, the cars from there, there can be an entry point from the cars, like a pivot attack or something. Or even to the cloud service, from bottom up. So yeah, there are definitely a lot of applications. And because also the manufacturers of these connectivity chips, they are limited, they are 3-4, it's easier for us also to integrate easier with them.
And your solution will work only for the wireless communication messages, or also over wired? I mean, if a device is equipped with both wired and wireless options.
No, actually, our solution is dedicated for wireless communications. We don't go to traditional TCP/IP networks or any other wire or even on the canvas protocols of the internal networks of the car. So we focus on the actual communication gateways, let's say, as we say, the last mile of connectivity, as we describe it in our part. So yeah, it's very specialized for this purpose.
Hey, Michael, just a question on regulations, right? So I assume you already have some form of like compliance to the UNECE, the WP.29, and you have that, right, from a European standards perspective? You probably
No.
already okay. You've not, I mean, there's a mandatory cybersecurity regulation or standard. Like, have you mapped it to where that fits? Yeah.
Yeah, we want to. You mean as a startup? If we comply with
correct.
if we have some ISO in place or other certifications.
No, I mean as in compliance to the INESA standards and some of the UN standards that is set for the automotive makers.
No, we don't have them. I'm not sure if we need to have them as a solution provider or if the actual solution provider needs to. I mean, hardware provider needs to
So
have
as
them.
an example, right, let's say a BMW is working towards the SAE standards, the NIST standards, and they'll be aligned to the common standards or the European standards, right? So like they will probably want to solve it, yeah, and they have internal teams to solve it. But I'm sure you definitely have the solution, what you just mentioned, to augment, right, from a corporate point of view, right, the entire development cycle. So that's probably a part that I thought you may have already worked on or will start to work on and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, we look into them, but as a startup, we didn't let's say we didn't chase it to get this compliance from our side. I'm not sure if as I told you, I'm not sure if we need them, to be honest.
It will be, I think. I mean, I think it's important because even as an automotive supplier, you will need some compliances of your own. So there are two parts to, I think, from Kevin's question, there are two parts to the question. One part is, as Intellectra, what are your compliances of your organization? That's very important. So that there are some compliances which these standards will provide, UNECE and will also kind of mandate some compliances on the organization. And second part is in the what part now
Sorry, Rahul, I cannot hear you.
I'm not sure why. Okay.
Yeah, I think last
okay
were not audible.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll repeat. So let's say BMW takes your solution. Okay. So one is BMW is going to expect some organizational compliances from your organization. That's mandatory because that's the supply chain which needs compliances that has to be ensured. And second is, yes, the RN124 compliance, UNECE RN124 compliance will be BMW's responsibility for sure. But in that compliance, how is your solution really fitting in? And what part of the compliance your solution really takes over, right, and ensures. So that articulation or that compliance, I mean, that view has to be brought out more clearly.
Yes, I know what you mean. Yeah, we look into it. There is actually these regulations usually they don't talk specifically about protocols.
Of course not, yes. But you have to give your perspective. When we're talking, we have to give our perspective to the customers that, okay, this is how it will fit. Finally, it's the OEM's call and how their overall interpretation of the standards is, how they implement it in their organization. But there has to be perspective brought into the table. Otherwise, it becomes very disconnected and we cannot really live with that.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, Yeah, actually, I think there are some clauses about the intrusion detection mechanisms that need to be used. I think it's there that it can fit our solution in order to, let's say, help the OEMs to understand how it fits to their compliance requirements. And I think mostly in this part, in the intrusion detection systems, because it doesn't say about more specificalities about this part. It just leaves it open. So someone can say, okay, it's about campus intrusion detection system. Someone can say it's about the automotive TCP/IP internal network, which is also very hot right now. But in our case, it's about wireless intrusion detection system, something like that.
I guess the whole bottom line of it, right? I mean, in summary, is probably like streamlining the message of who you sell to, what you sell, and really keeping it crispy in that sense, right? Because I know you're trying to address some of the go-to-market with the different sectors, but probably you want to even streamline it even shorter of like, okay, this is who we are, this is who we are selling to, and this is what we offer. Right, and this is our proposition, right? Regardless of whether is it internal mapping, external mapping, and we are the only say the cellular, wireless threat detection, right, company. So probably it's just streamlining to a particular sector that makes it easy to absorb and understand, right? Because I think the ecosystem, those who are doing this, they understand, but I mean, as you approach the larger conglomerates, whether is it automotive or critical infrastructure, the point was it doesn't really relate to them. It's just like, they'll probably be in their head thinking that I can do it. I've got people who can do it. And yeah, so it's just about how to really deep dive it a bit more, right? So yeah, that it's just that first step of like initial access, getting that champion, get internal champion, and getting that land of like, okay, we have an identified use case, right? That point of view that you can start to dive deeper. Yeah, because in a lot of the critical infrastructure organizations, they are very time starved. Availability is key, right? And it's just like, okay, you have what it takes, right? So, and I totally agree with you from an adversary point of view. It's just getting the initial access without even concern for compliance. But from a larger conglomerate, we need to move beyond a tick in the box. We all agree on that. But I think a lot of organizations still a tick in the box, right? And that comes back to what Rahul mentioned earlier about the different standards and compliance tables that they have to go through anyway, like as a so-called secure by ecosystem, right? Essentials.
Yeah. I guess what OEMs most of the times want is to tick the boxes.
Yeah.
But
that goes back to your champion, right? That goes back to your internal stakeholder of that OEM, who is dedicated to this role, not part-time, not dual time, and is able to champion you like, okay, Nicholas, I'm gonna bring you to say the EV charging business, the power, some of these different powertrains or whatever. Yeah, just focus. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good point.
If I were to summarize, I think 2 points really come out very strongly for me. First is the focus for the market seems to be way too diversified or way too broad-based. I think it's very important because my next point about corollary point about the articulation is also kind of comes from there. First of all, why I say focus for the market, because if you're going to show 10 markets, right, it's impossible that you will articulate your problem statements for 10 markets in the same breadth. I mean, for the size and solution scale that you have right now, maybe it's not the best idea. If automotive is really the focus, according to me, the pilot should also be done in automotive, not in smart cities. It will not help. It may not help. It will waste a lot of energies and a lot of resources where you don't want to focus on eventually. If you see that as a market and if you see that as a scalable market, great. Then it's a good strategy. And then after 2 years, 1 year, establishing yourself in smart cities, wherever, whatever part of smart cities you're talking about, then moving to automotive can be a good idea. But I think the second point, which is very important, is the articulation itself. I think I was lost to large part of the large part of the presentation, where I was not really sure what is your solution. So what is the big picture for a given market, for a given scenario? What is the big picture of the complete technology stack that you're talking about, where all things really get implemented? And then when it comes to cybersecurity as a solution, as in the complete ecosystem, in the complete big picture, what are the different parts of elements where typically some parts of solution get implemented, and then from there, where is Intellectra really sitting in? Where is your solution, at what layer, like, if you said it's endpoint only, then yes, I want to see the bigger picture, but I also want to zoom in only into the endpoint, because that's where your solution is. Then whether your solution is hardware solution or a software solution, or you'll give only the embedded core part of it, and within that also, then you eventually uncover that, okay, it's only for wireless connections or wireless communication devices that this endpoint protection really works, and not for wired ones. So I mean, there are so many different shades of it which were not clearly coming out, and I was unable to see if I were BMW today and you were coming to me, I would not know what you were really offering. I know, okay, I would understand that you're working in the cybersecurity space, you have some solutions, and you were kind of ticking the right boxes when it comes to the problems of the industry and the challenges that the industry indeed needs to solve. But what is finally that I will get from you, I was not completely clear about it. So if we were, and I think that was not clear because your target market segment was quite broad-based. If you had only automotive as your target segment, then I'm sure you will change, your presentations will come out much more articulate, because you're focusing only on automotive, and automotive space has a specific style of working, right? So this it does not remain generic. I think these 2 points, if you will, it will help, in my opinion.
Yeah. I understand. Now that I process it, I understand what you mean, definitely.
Yeah, just to add a minor point to it is once you focus on your market segment, which is mobility and autonomous vehicles or automotive, then you can then start to deep dive into personas, right? You can
Yes.
have a very targeted messaging to the personas of whether is it you are targeting the IT cybersecurity for the automotive unit, is it the plant side of things, is it the research, right? There's different groups lah, business units lah, and then it becomes very clearly delineated in terms of your so-called the pain that you're trying to address, right? Because everybody's just busy in day to day, and they knock off their brain drain, right? So brain dead, sorry, yeah, and so that's the part you want to address lah. That's all, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Thank you very much.
This is
I
fantastic.
think,
Right, Mihala?
yeah, I received a lot of feedback. I mean, it was amazing to be honest. Now, if you discuss it, you understand it, better. And if you talk with some industry players that they know what's going on, it was very difficult.
A big four consulting firm would have charged you $1 million for this. Kelvin and Rahul did that for free, right?
Yeah, no, we learn as much, Nicholas. I think you have a fantastic solution.
Absolutely.
I think the domain, I think Rahul and myself agree that there's a lot we learn from it. There's definitely a proposition. There's definitely a solution. There's that, right? Because I look at it, privacy. The privacy part is good because I don't see that, right? So, but if I were to deep dive it a bit more, you go into the cloud, then how about privacy on the cloud? It just goes into the rabbit hole, right? I'm not going to ask that. Yeah, but you do address that part, which is a missing sector, right? But is it painful enough? Is it big enough that the cost will be paid by consumer and by the automotive maker? That's another topic for another day, lah. But I think the first part of where you address in terms of the cellular threat detection and the GNS, I think that's something that may be interesting, that you may be saying that, Kelvin, I'm going to just have a sensor that you can place it within the automotive systems. It's going to just protect and prevent all the different anomalies, and yeah, so that could be something that you pivot to. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think it's the part on the embedded system is the question mark. It's like, okay, are you going to work the OEM? OEM is going to allow you to embed your system into them. They're not going to do that, right? So are you going to place a chip or what? So that's probably something you need to think about. Yeah.
Yeah. It's something that also concerns us, and that's why we want to go with the patent that will allow us also to license the source code.
Yeah.
Which is also attractive for OEMs to install it. So if they have, because we work in my previous works, we are working like that. I know that you can license the actual source code.
Yes,
So
yes. Very common.
Definitely.
Very common.
So,
but then see, source code level solutions are very different from chip level solutions, purely from a real-time performance perspective. Of course, as Kelvin said, from the industry acceptance perspective also, it's very different, right? But your target personas will change immediately the moment you have a source code level solution versus a chip level solution. Your personas within the OEM will also change, whom you're targeting, whom you're addressing. And this is when we're talking only about endpoint. But if your solution is more not endpoint based, but you're talking about a cloud based solution or whatever, so it's a completely different persona. So as narrow your customer focus will be, I think the easier your articulation will be, and the better your solution kind of design will be. So that's my take on it. Right?
Yeah. It
Just
could
try
final mile
one.
could just be a sensor, right? So final mile could just be a sensor.
Absolutely.
It can be used anywhere, right? Automotive, oil and gas, chemicals, right?
Everywhere.
Cities,
Yes.
right. Yeah, because if you talk about exactly like what Rahul mentioned, if you talk about chip level, I don't think it's gonna be like exactly the minimum of a startup founder trying to push it up the mountain. There's a lot of pushbacks on just touching their chips and their systems, right? Yeah.
Okay, interesting to know. Yeah, the sensor has some particularities, but okay. Yeah, I would think about it.
Yeah. Finally, Michaelis, I think we're out of time, but I would just like to mention that this is a great sector to be in. This is an absolutely critical time where every single person is talking about cybersecurity, just like now the world is talking about AI. I mean, if you look at the buzzwords, cybersecurity and AI both are the buzzwords of the industry for sure. So this is a great sector to be in. So please stick around. Please build the solutions better and faster, but build for a narrower market to begin with. And I think you'll have a great success here.
Yeah, thank you very much, Rahul. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, Kelvin, for all the feedback, both of you. I mean, it was amazing. I learned a lot. I wasn't expecting to learn all this much, to be honest. That's why I told you at the beginning that is me that I will learn today, not you, about my solution. So yeah,
No,
thank you very much.
Likewise.
We learn a lot from you as
We learn
well,
as
because we are very heartened that there's an excellent solution that you're providing out. So looking forward to your solution in the upcoming all the different vehicles there, right? I think that's awesome.
Thanks a lot, Rahul and Kelvin. You have been extremely gracious, extremely kind with your feedback. Appreciate that. And hopefully we can reconnect again to explore synergies. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much,
Thanks a
Pankaj,
lot.
for the
Appreciate it.
opportunity, and nice meeting you, Kelvin. So talk to you guys again.